This program is brought to you by the following proud sponsors: the National Electrical Contractors Association, Southern Sierras Chapter, providing power to America for over 100 years, and by the Inland Empire Labor Management Cooperation Committee, bringing labor and management together to help build this region's future, and by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Locals 440 and 477, supplying the skilled workforce, lighting the way to America's future.
Welcome to Voice of the Middle Class, an ongoing studio cast series of programs with the objective of finding solutions to help grow and empower a stronger, more prosperous middle class, locally, regionally, and nationally. The Voice of the Middle Class is brought to you by the Inland Empire Labor Management Cooperation Committee. Hello, I'm Jeff Allen. On this segment of Voice of the Middle Class, I'm joined by Juliann Anderson, a deputy city attorney in the city of Los Angeles with over 20 years of legal experience. Ms. Anderson is also an educator in the city of Riverside, where she is running for the Riverside Community College District Board of Trustees, Trustee Area 4. Ms. Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Jeff. Likewise.
Let's start by talking a little bit about you and giving us some sense of your background, certainly from an educational perspective. We know that you're a city attorney in the city of Los Angeles, but let's talk a little bit about your educational background with respect to the scope of our conversation here.
Well, a couple of things. I grew up in Los Angeles. I was a public school student, K through 12, graduated from Eagle Rock High School. That prepared me for Stanford University and Harvard Law. Came out of there in '90 and joined the Riverside County District Attorney's Office, where I was a prosecutor for some years. So that's my personal educational background. Over the last, I'd say 15 years off and on, I've taught at the UC Riverside Extension Program, both professional development and legal studies, which has been delightful. A lot of adult learners. So it keeps my hand in and it keeps me in front of a class. And I think that's important when you're running for an office like the RCCD board, that you know something about a classroom, something about the educational process, how difficult it can be, and what students' needs are.
Ms. Anderson, let's kind of focus on from a general perspective to start with. I mean, how critical is an education today in helping to rebuild the nation's middle class? I mean, we read about it in the newspaper every day. We see, those of us who read newspapers anymore, if we're checking it out online certainly, or hearing about it on the radio. The middle class, the great dwindling middle class, a weaker middle class, we've been told. So how important is an education to strengthen this middle class and get that authority back?
Jeff, it's critical. I can't think of anything more important for our local economy as well as for our individual students. Coming out of this recession, I think a lot of our community members are feeling very disillusioned because a lot of the jobs that used to be here have vanished, along with some of the property values that we were seeing 8-10 years ago. But we're in the middle of a time of change where technology, medicine, manufacturing, all kinds of things are happening in a new way that we need to train ourselves for and we need to train our students for. Community colleges are beautifully positioned to do that. Although we have not been paying attention, I think, to the vocational end of things, and we need to be, I think, looking to some of our partners perhaps in Western Europe that have done a great job. Germany, France in some respects, some of the other European countries have done a great job in terms of using vocational education to maintain a manufacturing base that's highly technical, highly specialized. They've kept those types of jobs in. They are highly unionized societies. We have a lot to learn, I think, from that. And our community colleges are really the vocational tech that we've got for our community and public education. There are a lot of for-profit colleges that have popped up since the recession. I don't think they're in the same class. They're not accredited. They're hugely expensive. They're predatory. They all want to get the federal student loan dollars that our students have, but they don't necessarily provide quality training. They don't provide quality job placement. So we have a real opportunity to step up after the recession and offer our students high quality education at a reasonable price with our community colleges, both in terms of general education, where they can go on to a 4-year institution for their general college, or for vocational training. So I think we're standing at a real juncture of opportunity, especially after this recession, where we can give our students a good deal.
So obviously there are major opportunities, room for improvement out there at community colleges, not just nationwide, of course, but here, particularly in the area in your backyard, with respect to Riverside Community College and the Riverside Community College District. You have had a chance to talk to students, from what I understand. You've had a chance to kind of gauge their level of satisfaction with the education that they're getting or they're not getting. What are some of the things that you've heard from them?
This campaign's been very interesting. I've been at it for about 9 or 10 months, and I've talked to a lot of students at the 3 campuses, Moreno Valley, Riverside City, Norco. I've also talked to a lot of community members, students' families, parents, grandparents, people that are now homeowners that were recently students. There has been a good deal of discontent, I would say, in terms of the ability for students to get their classes. And this is a phenomenon, I think, that's hit with the recession. The recession decimated our faculty. 40% of our faculty time was cut, and most of that was from our adjunct, our part-time faculty. So when you take out 40% of those classes, that means students are going to have to wait in line. People have a hierarchy of order where certain people can get classes more readily if they meet certain conditions. Those that can't get their classes, a lot of them are going outside of the county. The Corona folk, I'm noticing, they go to Orange County, to Santiago, Orange Coast. People on the eastern end of my trustee area in Paris, a lot of them are talking about that they head toward Mount San Jacinto. I just met a young woman Sunday that during a canvas, and I asked her, are you going to Moreno Valley? It's just 2 miles from your home. She says, no, I go to Mount San Jacinto because I tried last year to sign up for my classes and I couldn't get any. So she waited a whole other year, a whole year of her life basically went by, and then she started school where she could get her classes. That's a shame. I mean, it's more than a shame, it's a breach of our responsibility as a community. When we have young people that are wasting years of their lives, when they could be going and getting the training that they need and that we need them to get.
And I think it's too stunning you're talking about the students in the Riverside area, Corona area, going into Orange County. You mentioned Orange Coast College. That's 60 miles away, yes. Probably,
Yes.
At least at any rate. What are the big reasons for these cutbacks? We talked about the recession. We know that California has had a budget issue, and it seems that education is always first and foremost among those programs to get cut. Are there any other issues? Do you see there is being some policy, some underlying policy issues? Is it poor planning, or is it predominantly financial?
Well, the state suffered a terrible recession, and I can't fault the legislature or the governor for what they have done to bring the state back up to health, which is essentially what they've done. They've pulled us back from the brink. That being said, they had to have, a gimlet eye and a sharp pencil, and community colleges didn't get everything that they wanted, that's for certain. They got, slashed in large part, and we had to, here at the community college level, had to slash accordingly because the greater portion of funding comes from Sacramento. There's a formula based on number of students and how many hours they expect students to be in the educational system. So that being said, it's a recessionary problem over the last 6 to 7 years. I think also it's a budgetary priority problem here within the district. And what I mean by that is we have, I think, a board with the sole exception of Mary Figueroa, who is always progressive and thoughtful about students and about people that are entering into the educational system. But Mary aside, I think we have a board that is not necessarily thinking about those students that are waiting and waiting and waiting and perhaps turning away from our college. I don't hear them discuss it. I don't hear that on the agenda. Just last night, the board was discussing a new model that the state legislature wants to have to make certain programs at the community college level a 4-year baccalaureate, and they're talking about their nursing program. And that's all well and good. But if you take money and you are dedicating resources to make a 2-year program into a 4-year program at the community college level, which is a huge change, and you're neglecting all these other programs where students can't get their classes, I mean, something's got to give. You cannot just neglect the whole program for one new thing. And I didn't hear an understanding that students, even now, 6 years after the recession started, they are not getting what they need.
Well, let's talk about your solutions, though. I mean, have you given any thought to, if you're elected, Ms. Anderson, how can the RCCD board be more effective for students in helping them get the education that they deserve, and really that their careers, their future careers demand in order that they can be productive and prosperous?
The district has to do a number of things. First, the district has to prioritize its budget. And I think that's going to take kind of a Jerry Brown style, very adult look at this budget and where are our priorities. And the primary product here is education. We have to make sure that our students have a high quality education at a reasonable price and that they can reasonably expect to get their work done in 2 years. That's kind of our bargain with our community students. So that budgetary prioritization has to occur. Secondly, we have got to be serious about finding new sources of revenue, and I don't think that the district has been really looking hard at that. That means maybe more students from out of the district that are paying more. That means maybe looking for grants and partnerships with public-private projects. Let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. We had a public-private partnership with Toyota for our auto tech program. They provided brand new machinery and computers and everything that students would need to become a Toyota tech. Mm-hmm. That was pulled. That's all gone. Those classes have gone from 6 of the introductory classes to 3. So we've lost all of that funding. That's a shame. We need to be doing more, not less of that sort of thing, because those are the kinds of good technical jobs that we are beautifully positioned to offer if we have the money.
And this kind of dovetails right into my next question. I mean, what kinds of jobs specifically? And you just talked about one, which is auto maintenance, auto repair. What other types of jobs can our community colleges do a better job of preparing students for?
Well, I think there's a combination of things that we need to think about here in the area. Riverside, San Bernardino, the inland area, I think is very interestingly situated. We're in the Southland. We have all the benefit of Southern California, and we have our own unique attributes. We have, for instance, a geographic setting where we should be doing a lot of solar and wind technology in terms of green technologies. We're hot and we're windy in these counties. So we should be growing and developing those technologies. We should be training people to install them, to develop them. And we should be dovetailing with our union partners that know how to do that as well and offer apprenticeship programs for that. There should be pre-apprenticeship programs with the IBEW, with other unions that are building huge solar and wind facilities like Ivanpah and others that are out in the desert and they're nearby. So we ought to be taking advantage of what is close to us. We have, secondly, a very underserved medical infrastructure here. With the Affordable Care Act, it's estimated that there are going to be 800,000 new patients signed up in Southern California, and the inland is a large part of that. We have a brand new medical school at UC Riverside. We need to be partnering with them. The RCCD nursing program is old and renowned. We're very highly reputed, and we should be partnering with UCR. Our physician assistance program is brand new. We need to be doubling the size of it. They're estimating that at least 4 physician assistants are needed to support 1 doctor. Heaven knows how many nurses are needed to support 1 doctor. We have all the technicians underneath. So these medical jobs are great jobs. And the for-profit colleges, they've sniffed the wind. They understand that, and they're charging $20, $30, $40,000 for a certificate when we can do these things for 5, 7, 10 in an accredited institution where those units transfer. In these for-profits, not accredited, not transferable, not necessarily putting people into jobs. So that's the second area.
So we can do that. In other words, we have the capability of doing it. But
Yes.
Let's look ahead then, knowing what you know and playing with what you have to play with here. Once you're elected, if this all works out, then what is the likelihood and even the feasibility of being able to institute the changes so that this sort of thing can happen quickly, and not 10, 20 years from now, but something that can happen very quickly within, say, the next year?
Well, to have it happen within the next year would require budget prioritization. That's the first thing that has to happen. The second thing that has to happen is a quick turnaround with other revenue streams. Perhaps stepping back even further than that, there needs to be a majority on the board that is interested in that kind of student-centered, job-centered governance.
Do you think that there is?
Right now, I think that we need to have some help. I think there needs to be at least two changes on that board in order for the board to have the kind of progressive mix that'll make these sorts of changes happen quickly. That being said, the board has a notion that the area needs jobs. I think it's more of a question of how that's going to happen, and looking at it in a very agenda-driven, very hard-nosed kind of way rather than just kind of floating along. There has to be a notion that there's an urgent need, both from our students and our community, and it can't just be, well, we'll kind of make it happen maybe. It needs to be driven by a priority, and that's what I intend to do, and I know that others who are running are intending to do that too, and particularly Imran Farouk from Moreno Valley. One thing I did want to add, the third huge area, I think, of jobs that we are looking at here in the inland and here in California is gaming and new types of entertainment. IT and technical training of that sort is huge, obviously. But we're seeing things like the gaming industry just explode in terms of being a part of the entertainment industry. It's not just going to be movies and TV. We're going to have all kinds of other new things. And I think what gaming represents is perhaps a new way of presenting information in ways that we haven't really thought about. I mean, we think of it as entertainment, but maybe it's a way that we're going to be, as I heard someone say recently, how we present medical information is going to be in more of a game format. So our program at Norco College is beautifully situated. But again, people are waiting in line. People don't necessarily get in. I met one young man. He wanted to be in the program. He went to a for-profit instead. He spent $30,000. He's in debt. He's working at CVS. And there's nothing wrong with CVS, but it's going to be hard for him to pay that $30,000 debt. If he had come to RCCD, he could have paid a fraction of that and gotten an accredited high-quality education. So
what kinds of, we've already talked about, for example, automotive services, we've talked about nursing and medical, we've talked about gaming, for example. What other types of programs that maybe are long since gone or have really been pared back that you would like to see brought back and strengthened and reinstituted in some of these schools where maybe they have left and long since been forgotten?
Well, I think perhaps we as a culture need to kind of rethink how we approach post K through 12 education. I think everyone's dream is you want to send your child to college. I think everyone's dream should be we want to send our child to training or education of their choice. And I don't want to say that college or vocational ed one is better than the other, but I do want to say I think often a lot of vocational jobs, which are excellent jobs, often with benefits and pension, often they're overlooked. Jobs that you can start 2 years out of high school at the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year with benefits level, that people don't think in terms of kind of the old-fashioned go and join and become an apprentice and learn how to be a heavy equipment operator or a pipe fitter or an electrician or a lineman. These are great jobs, and they're not vaporizing. We need them more than ever, but they're highly trained. I need people to think more along those lines, that if we want to have a healthy middle-class life, we have to have highly trained people in these sorts of jobs. I don't want to negate or downplay general education because I think the community colleges are hugely important in terms of getting people into the college educational realm, but at a very reasonable cost. You can get your first 2 years of general education done at a community college, with highly educated, great faculty, PhD faculty, but at a reasonable cost. And I think that is hugely important to our families. I hear that again and again when I'm out canvassing, that it makes sense for them to do the first 2 years at a JC.
It's really interesting, this part of the conversation we're having right now, because it was just recently I had a conversation with my nephew who was going to Cal Poly Pomona,
Right.
and asked why it was that he had to take history courses. And that was nowhere near his field of study or endeavor or major. And so your point is obviously well taken with respect to the two-year schools. When it comes to educating young people, and you could probably throw adults who are going back to school to further their education so they can make things better for themselves. What questions or concerns keep you up at night? What things do you think about when it comes to educating, putting people in the classroom for the purpose of making them better prepared for a better job, not just a surviving wage type of job, but a thriving wage type of job that really was kind of the basis, the foundation, the building blocks for the strong, authoritative, economically speaking, middle class that we've had in the past?
Well, your question is a great one, and there are a number of things. I mean, first of all, let me say that the community college has a gigantic mission, perhaps even broader than our Cal States or our UCs, in terms of we are the community's college. We are the only post K through 12 institution that we as a local community control. We elect our board here. It's not, the University of California, it's not the Cal State system coming down from Sacramento. It's ours. This is our district. And in controlling this, we have the responsibility of providing an education to anybody that's graduated from high school that wants an education. So I think we have a duty, a covenant with these students that if they come to us saying, I want to get an education, we need to meet that need, and we need to do it in a high quality, reasonably low cost way. That being said, we have many people who are going to need help to come up to the college level of work or the high vocational tech level of work that needs to be that they need to reach to complete an RCCD education. So we need to help people. If they're not quite up to the level that they need to be, we need to prepare them. At the board meeting last night, they were basically saying that 20% of the students that come in are ready from the word go to do college level work. That means we need to be helping 80% of our students. That is our mission. We need to do that. We need to do it with open arms. So that keeps me up at night because that's a huge responsibility. We're going to be having responsibility for adult school. Adult schools are going to be shifted from K through 12s by the state to community colleges. So adults who want to come and learn a new language, learn English, learn other skills, get their GED, that's going to be under our ambit. That's going to be our responsibility. And I think the two really bedrock things that keep me up, given this huge mission, the two bedrock things that keep me up are the fact that we have to meet our educational promises that we're going to give people a high quality general education or vocational education to meet the needs that they have and to meet the job needs of the area. And we need to do that within 2 years, and we need to stop having all these kids waiting and turning away because they can't get their classes. And then the second thing that we need to have is a better means of meeting the job needs of the community. And that means we need to be partnering with our unions, we need to be partnering with our employers. If we have certain industries or employers that need us to develop certain types of curriculum, we need to be doing that. Specialty curriculums, come to us if you need a particular type of training for a particular type of industry. We need to be open enough and nimble enough to do that. And we can do that. But again, I think we need to be thinking about the future and thinking about what the needs are right now. Not just kind of floating along and rubber stamping what's in front of us. We need to be very driven and intelligent about what's going on and what the future is going to bring for this area. I don't like the notion of a board that is just doing what's placed in front of it. There needs to be an agenda.
So everybody on the board essentially needs to be on board with change. They need to be connected, is what you're saying. We need to have an understanding of the needs in the community and to reach out to those organizations like the unions in order to kind of help bring all of these things together, all these ideas, and help bring these solutions to the table so that action can be taken. Juliann Anderson, people have had a chance to kind of get to know you just a little bit here in the small scope of this video, of this program today. I'm going to the polls tomorrow, let's say, for example, and I've got my ballot in front of me. Why should I cast my vote for you, for the RCCD board?
For two reasons. I'm student-centered. I care about our students. I was a first generation to go to college in my family, so I know what they're going through. This is not a country club setting. These are people that are going to college for the first time. And often we ask our community college students to kind of fend for themselves. So I want to be their advocate. We need to be helping them as much as possible to get their education because it's in their interest. It leads to a much better life if they have that education. I know I've had opportunities that I never dreamed possible. Becoming a lawyer and having all the different career opportunities that I've had. So I want to be an advocate for our students and knowing that I understand where they come from. And I want to be an advocate for the community and the employment and job needs of the community. We need to be very mindful about the importance of local jobs. We've had a $350 million bond issue that we've had for the last 10 years. It was passed in 2004. And our bargain with the voters, who essentially voted to tax themselves, was if you do this, then you will get the benefit of these local jobs, both for those of you that are tradespeople and that build these beautiful new buildings and facilities for Riverside Community College District, and for the local economy. So, I mean, the money's going to be flowing in. That project labor agreement, which made those local jobs possible and has been succeeding beautifully, that is up for renewal next year. If that is not renewed, then all the money that people have voted to tax themselves, this bond issue, and there's still a lot of it that's going to be flowing out over the next year or two, that money isn't necessarily going to stay in this area. So I want to be an advocate for the local economy and for people's jobs staying here. That's very important to me.
Well, on that note, Juliann Anderson, I want to thank you for joining us. We've enjoyed the discussion, and good luck to you in the upcoming election. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much.
That's Juliann Anderson, educator and attorney, and she's candidate for Riverside Community College District Governing Board of Trustees, Trustee Area 4. Voice of the Middle Class is brought to you by the Inland Empire Labor Management Cooperation Committee. And to view or listen to this studio cast again and upcoming editions of Voice of the Middle Class, visit voiceofthemiddleclass.com or studiocastpros.com and click Programs. Then click on Voice of the Middle Class, where you can watch the videos or download the audio podcast to listen to later. We also invite you to leave comments if you wish and share these programs with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+, and others. Thanks again for joining us for the Voice of the Middle Class. I'm Jeff Allen.
The preceding program was brought to you by these proud sponsors: the National Electrical Contractors Association, Southern Sierras Chapter, providing power to America for over 100 years, and by the Inland Empire Labor Management Cooperation Committee, bringing labor and management together to help build this region's future, and by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Locals 440 and 477, supplying the skilled workforce lighting the way to America's future.